All right, everyone. Welcome in to the Instant Review podcast. And this is not just any episode of the Instant Review podcast because we tonight are going to preview the final game of the 2021-22 NFL season because it is the game of all games. The big one, the Super Bowl from Los Angeles. And while we may not be on Radio Row in Southern California, we will virtually pretend to be. I'm Nicholas Hill, as always, joined by Oscar Orengo, Conor Kennedy, and Leon Taryan. Guys, we've been doing this since the beginning of the season, and I can't believe now we have one final game to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, Nick, the biggest game of the season with two of the most exciting teams to watch. The Rams, they've been built to be a Super Bowl contender. And then the Bengals, we didn't even expect them to be here at the beginning of the season, but they've been absolutely killing it, going on a tear in this postseason. So really excited to see what's going on this Sunday and excited to, chop it up with all of you and talk about this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot to discuss when it comes to the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is not just about the game itself, because you got to remember, your average NFL game has about probably 10 to 20 million viewers. Playoff games will go up to 30, 40. Conference style games will get up to 50. But the Super Bowl usually gets over 100 million viewers. The record, I believe, was the Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl back in 2015, and that was 115 million. So a third of the country was watching that game. And, beyond the game itself, people look forward to all kinds of different aspects. So just to kind of kick this off before we get into the game itself, I thought it'd be fun to discuss some of the other aspects. First and foremost, I think a lot what people tune in for is the halftime show. Of course, this year in Los Angeles, we're going to have Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Dr. Dre, and Mary J. Blige for a hip hop show. But my question to you, and then a twofold question: one, how excited are you for this particular halftime show? And two, what is your favorite halftime show ever?
I'm absolutely pumped for this halftime show. I know I've talked about it a lot. I think ever since it was announced, but I think this is gearing up to be the best Super Bowl halftime show so far in the history of halftime shows for the Super Bowl. Honestly, I mean, you got Kendrick Lamar, probably one of the most important artists of our generation, these past 10 years at least. You got Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, both pioneers in rap, and Mary J. Blige, a trailblazer in R&B. And then Eminem, who I think was a big gateway artist for a lot of people in our generation to get into hip hop. Myself at least, he was a big gateway artist. So seeing all those like hip hop royalty legends, on the stage together, chopping it up for 15 minutes, it's going to be an absolutely electric halftime show. But talking about some of my favorite halftime shows from my previous watching experience of the Super Bowl, two definitely come to mind. One was the last halftime show, the weekend for Super Bowl 55. I know it's a little bit of recency bias, but that stage production and the choreography was excellent. Especially considering the COVID-19 protocols that they had to go under to pull that show off, and of course the weekend's fantastic as well. And another one, absolutely legendary performance by Prince in the Super Bowl versus the Bears and the Colts. Just watching him play Purple Rain while it's absolutely pouring down in the stadium was an absolutely legendary sight to see. And what a great performer also. Rest in peace to Prince.
I'm going to agree with Connor on this one. The Weeknd's performance last year was amazing and sort of became a meme all over Instagram and Twitter. Just jokes going everywhere with the mirrors and everything. But I'm excited for this lineup for the halftime show. I think this is going to be a great Super Bowl, not just with the players on the field, but that halftime show is going to be great. I think the commercials are going to be great, and I'm excited for Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, I think NFLs do a hip hop show. It's actually kind of funny, like when you see like the culture 180 that the NFL has kind of taken since like the early 2000s with the Colin Kaepernick stuff, and then they hired Jay-Z and to help with the cultural awareness, and now we finally have a hip hop show. It's pretty cool, just for like a little bit of cultural awareness, I guess, in the show. I'm actually more of a commercials guy. Honestly, the NFL commercials, I think like it's really cool to see how people brand themselves and how companies are trying to do extra stuff to like, entertain the fans and bring more an audience reach. Um, but my favorite halftime show, and maybe I'm biased a little bit, was 54 with J-Lo and Shakira. I think that was, for me, that was a good, wholesome 10, 15 minutes of some good fun. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely those are all fantastic shows. I would say, I mean, Prince is probably my favorite one, but outside of that one, I think I gotta take it back to the Michael Jackson one from '93. He put on a show in that one, and then for probably the past 10 years, outside of The Weeknd, who I love, this might be kind of a surprise answer, but Lady Gaga at the Patriots Falcons one. I mean, she absolutely killed that performance. I mean, coming up from the top of the stadium, just absolutely put on a show. And as someone who, because I'll say like Kendrick Lamar was the artist for me personally that got me into hip hop. I'm excited to see what he does. Although my concern is, I feel like there's a lot of people for not a lot of time. So I certainly hope every artist gets their opportunity to shine. And I'm very curious to see how they structure the set list to maximize each talent. But I'm very interested to see how they pull it off. Because definitely having Jay-Z involved gives you access to a lot more artists that perhaps the NFL would not have looked at previously. But as Oscar brought up, and I kind of want to transition into this, commercials are also another big part. People like to watch the commercials. I mean, every other day of the year, people aren't going to sit around and watch commercials except for this one night. Now, I'll be honest, personally, I think the past couple of years, commercials have not been anywhere close to as good as they were in the old days. But do y'all have like a particular ad that stands out in your mind when you think of, yeah, that is what a Super Bowl commercial should be?
A couple of my personal favorites, the Doritos commercials in general were always pretty funny, but especially like the one with the kid in the like cardboard time machine, where he like steals those Doritos. That was pretty funny. But my personal favorite is like that Reebok commercial in the early 2000s with the office linebacker, like that dude just like laying out like random office workers when they were slacking off. It's pretty funny.
I like the one, I forgot which year it's from, but it's 50 NFL players in one room, and it's a big brawl where they all start tackling each other over the dining tables. I forgot which one it is, but I remember watching that, and I was thinking that's what it's all about, a fun commercial. Because a lot of these corporations and these companies, they spend more than $1 million for these time slots. And a lot of people don't even watch the game. A lot of people just watch the Super Bowl, but going back, that's just a great memory. That one, I forgot which company it was for, but I think we're going to see some good commercials this year.
Yeah, I think that one was from the NFL itself. They were doing that for the NFL 100 campaign that they were doing. But yeah, that one was a classic for me.
I think there was one, I think with a Doritos commercial where every time somebody had like the residue, it might have been Cheetos, where they had the residue, some clown would like stick their fingers in his mouth. It was hilarious how awkward that would be in real life. But yeah, I thought that was that's like burned in my brain. So I guess it was a factor.
Yeah, there's a couple of them stand out to me. Like one, and I'd say maybe it's just recently, since she recently passed, but Betty White. Y'all remember the Snickers one where like she was like playing football? Like that one is an all-time classic. I think of the M&M's one with I'm Sexy and I Know It from like it had to be like 2010, 2011. That was a fantastic one. I think of like I don't know why I randomly think about. I feel like there was one with llamas that was really funny. I can't remember what company. And then obviously the Budweiser Clydesdales, like those always seem to be really, really good. And that was back when you only had like a handful of like serious commercials. And now it does feel like a bit of overkill of all the serious commercials. And I really hope that this year they tone it back and make it more entertaining. Because I do feel like that's what the Super Bowl should be about. It's more about the fun because, I mean, life is so serious as it is. But the last question I kind of want to ask, the food, the drinks. Do y'all have any specific traditions, any particular food that y'all like to have for Super Bowl Sunday?
So every Super Bowl that I've watched, my mom would always make some chicken wing dip. So it would be like some sliced chicken with some like Frank's Red Hot sauce, some blue cheese, and some other spices and whatnot all mixed together. And it's I just love eating it straight up, honestly, like even just as its own dish. But it was great dipping sauce. And also a party pizza. You can never go wrong with that either.
Yeah, I mean, pizza is always great, but the orders always get backed up because everybody's ordering from the same place. So it takes probably an hour and a half. But I like, I think Tocitos has those. It's like the chips are in sort of a bowl, so you dip them and the salsa stays in the middle. Those are good. The hint of lime, the Lays are also good. But honestly, my favorite all-time snack that I would eat with a Super Bowl or any event is Chex Mix. It's so basic, but it's just something that I've always enjoyed. It's whatever flavor it is, it's addicting to have.
Yeah, I kind of relate football to like finger food and like big crowd people food. So like wings, barbecue type stuff. Like it's a social event. So it's like social type food is usually where I'm thinking about. Uh, Actually, since I've been out here in the Dominican Republic the last couple of years, we actually just make it a habit to go to local wing spot, Hooters. I don't know if you've heard about it, but you go over there, you always have a big group of like sports people out here in DR go out there and they want to check out the game. And so it's a good time.
Yeah. Anytime I think about this topic, I think about the time where I was traveling home from St. Louis to Knoxville during, I think it was the Eagles Patriots, or Nick Foles won it. And we stopped at a Waffle House and watched the fourth quarter. It was the most random Super Bowl ever. But hey, what better way to watch Super Bowl with waffles? But definitely with chicken wings, pizza. I believe the Super Bowl is the busiest day of the year for pizza outside of the day before Thanksgiving. So it's
also the Totino's pizza rolls.
Yeah,
those are amazing. Whether it's in the microwave or they're crispy whenever you put it in the oven, those are unbelievable.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then just all the advertising for food anyway. Set your meals for the next couple of weeks. It seems like so. Definitely. I hope everyone enjoys the entertainment aspect of it. The halftime show is amazing. The ads are amazing, and your food and drinks are amazing. But as we've done all year, it's time to focus on the football. That's why we are here. Even if the friends you're watching it with are not there for that, we know if you're listening to the show, that's what you're here for. So it's time to move on. So we're going to start off with Oscar's injury report, and we're going to learn what names we need to be watching throughout the week as we begin to dissect the Rams and the Bengals.
Well, there's two big names that come out. Thank you, Nick. There's two big names that kind of come out from their injury report. A lot of the guys that are on there, for the most part, are getting rest days in. They're getting their vet days in the build-up for the weekend. The two big names, the two players that are doubtful and similar injuries, Tyler Higbee for the Rams and C.J. Uzomah with the Bengals. Both have knee MCL sprains, and they're both doubtful. Both injuries happened in their last division games, and they're both big parts of both offenses. Tyler Higbee has been playing a bigger role as the season's rolled on, and C.J. Uzomah as well. So they're two names to keep an eye on for the rest of the season. I mean, for the rest of the week, really.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about their impacts or potential lack of impact throughout our game preview. So, I was thinking about a way how we should dissect this matchup, because usually we don't have the time to go just into a matchup like this. But since it is the only game, we have the time. I kind of want to start comparing the coaches here, because this is a really interesting dichotomy, because it's kind of the teacher versus the apprentice in this game, because you have Sean McVay, He's been the NFL's it boy for years now. He's 61-29, revitalized the Rams franchise. He just won his second NFC championship. This will be his second appearance in the Super Bowl. His first one was back in 2018. Has been solidly consistent and has been really working to this moment. On the other side, we have Zach Taylor, who's 19-32-1. A lot of people thought he should have been fired last year. A lot of people were questioning why is he still in the league. And of course, he is a disciple of Sean McVay. Wasn't even a coordinator for Sean McVay, was just his quarterback's coach. But with Joe Burrow, things have turned around. When you take a look at this coaching matchup, obviously Sean McVay has the experience. He's the one who helped develop Zach Taylor as a coach. But do you think is an advantage or a disadvantage for Zach Taylor in this matchup to be so familiar with the more experienced coach? Or is it an advantage vice versa for Sean Taylor or for Sean McVay to have, I guess, the knowledge of what Zach Taylor's tendencies might be?
It's definitely interesting. I'll have to look at if the Bengals or the Rams have faced each other these past 3 years. I know these Bengals teams have been, a lot different than they were the past 2 years. The first year with Burrow and then the last year with Dalton as quarterback, respectively. But I don't know. I think Sean McVay is probably. I would trust him more in this game personally. I mean, not only does he know what the Super Bowl tastes like, he's already won a conference championship before in 2018, and he did it with Jared Goff. But Zach Taylor, this is kind of like his first taste of not only the Super Bowl, but of postseason success as well. And it's going to be really tough to, just play in this big stage in general.
Yeah, so for the record, the last time that the Bengals and the Rams played was actually in London. They were an international game, October 27th, 2019. So that's the only time Taylor and McVay have faced off. It was 24-10 win for the Rams. At that point, Cincinnati was 0-8. The Rams were 5-3. Andy Dalton was still the quarterback that day, who was 32 of 52 for 329 and a touchdown. So he didn't necessarily play terribly in that game. Of course, Goff was a quarterback for the Rams, but obviously these two teams are way different now than they were then. So I don't know if we can really use that as a reference for where we're at, for where these teams are at today.
But I also think in the Super Bowl, there are plays that aren't performed maybe the entire season or trick plays that you might see in the Super Bowl. For example, the Philly special whenever the Eagles face the Patriots. So I think there's going to be a couple of plays that we might not think that are going to happen that might happen. You never know. It could be a flea flicker, the first play of the game, and maybe Stafford tries throwing it deep. So I think the whole playbook is going to be expanded, and we're going to be seeing something that we haven't seen before from both teams.
Right. I think in general we all kind of assume that there's a little bit of a handicap for the Bengals because they're younger, because nobody expected them to be here, because Sean McVay is supposed to be such a creative coach, and because the Rams, they finally got their missing piece. They got Matt Stafford. They have a quarterback that's supposed to get them up over the hump. After they obviously understand the Rams. The Rams are Goliath, and the Bengals are David. And the Rams have all these superstars, but with that, you know what you're getting. You know what plays you expect. You know what that team can do. You know where they can go. With the Bengals.
All right, I think we're having some connection issues with Oscar.
So that might,
yeah, we're having some connection.
A little bit of sorry, guys.
No problem. Yeah, the connection's not your fault, but I guess to kind of just So when I take a look at this coaching comparison, it really comes down to, all right, they've never really faced each other with the teams that they have, so that's a complete anomaly in terms of what these teams are going to do. And I think Leon makes a great point in terms of we could see a lot of trick plays here. That's Philly special. I think back to the Saints Colts where the Saints came out with an onside kick in the second half. I mean, you're more willing to do drastic things in the Super Bowl. That's because this is it. This might be the only shot in your life you ever get to win this game because you're never guaranteed a chance to come back here again. And I think the pressure ends up being more on McVay here because, he's already been here once and he couldn't even muster a touchdown, which for an offensive guy was embarrassing for him. Like he got completely outclassed by Bill Belichick in every single way. So now he has something to prove. And, I think that might result in some more aggressive coaching because I feel like in that game, the Rams played a bit scared. Just remembering back to it because they were going up against the big, mighty New England Patriots. And, the defense didn't play scared, but the offense certainly did. And I think that contributed to their struggles in that game. And I think McVay is going to do everything he can to avoid that outcome again. On their side, Taylor, whether you have the experience in a situation like this, that works in one or two ways. One, your team's going to come out fearless because they don't know any better, especially when they are that young. Or you're going to freeze up in the moment. Now, I think with the leadership of a guy like Joe Burrow, I might lean more towards I think they're going to come out fearless and throw everything they have at this game. But, especially with the familiarity between these two coaches, I would definitely give the advantage to McVay just because of the experience. And I think he's going to take a lot of the lessons he learned from his first Super Bowl experience and really bring it back to this one. Oscar, is your connection stabilized?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Kind of. The connection's still definitely spotty.
Oh, well, I don't know if I should go ahead.
Yeah.
Let me turn off the video, actually. Let's see. All right. So we're talking about Sean McVay. Are we talking about the teams?
We're still on the coaching comparison. I was just seeing if anyone else had any more comments on McVay versus Taylor.
Well, let Oscar go and then I'll add in.
Well, I just want to compare Sean McVay. I think he has a lot of history. We've seen about how creative he is and how he can change like the game scheme to his benefit within games. We've seen him pull off a lot of magic in the playoffs and throughout the regular season. So we kind of know what to expect, which is a lot. And with Zach Taylor, we're not really sure. He has a really team. He has a really young team, and I think that not having anything to lose as the Cincinnati Bengals gives them a big benefit. I think we all understand that the Rams are the favorite, and it's their game to lose, not necessarily the Bengals team to win. So I think that can be a big difference maker in terms of preparedness and even attitude coming into the game.
Yeah, I agree completely because McVay has the clear advantage, but like Nick said, McVay has more pressure. They have more to lose in a way because they invested so much into this team. This Bengals team is very young compared to the Rams. Andrew Whitworth is 40 years old at left tackle, a great left tackle. He might be in his last season. Eric Weddle comes back from retirement. He might be in his last season. And Matthew Stafford, can he get the job done? Joe Burrow will probably be in another Super Bowl again. I honestly believe that. But Burrow in his second year compared to Stafford, who is in his 12th, drafted in 2009. Yeah, so he's in his 12th season. So there's more to lose for this Rams team. So there's going to be a lot more pressure on them.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And speaking of Burrow and all the experience in that Rams defense, let's kind of jump into Bengals offense versus the Rams defense. So we're gonna do this side first, and then we're gonna flip it over to Rams offense versus the Bengals defense. But obviously, Joe Burrow, was number one pick last year for the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people were like, "Why even go to Cincinnati? It's a cursed franchise. They can't do anything." You're not going to be very good there. Of course, coming off of his amazing 60 touchdown season at LSU with, with future teammate Jamar Chase. And even though they were 4-12 last year, he got hurt. You could see, I think, some positives in the Bengals offense last year, especially with guys like Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd. But they get Jamar Chase with the 6th pick this past year. And despite all the offseason rumors about him not being able to catch balls and being a bust, this offense took a significant step forward, and they've been very explosive. Joe Burrow has really earned that number 1 pick. And he is the first number 1 pick ever to actually reach the Super Bowl in his first 2 seasons. And, obviously the weak link here for a lot of people, including myself, is the offensive line. A lot of people were like, why didn't you pick Penel Sewell with that 6th pick and let him fall to Detroit at 7? Thankfully, it has worked out in terms of Jamar Chase being fantastic. But they're going up against a powerful Rams defense with a lot of star power. When you have guys like Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, it's just insane what they have on that side of the ball. So, guys, when you look at this Bengals offense versus the Rams defense, what are you looking for? What do you think is going to be key in determining which side is more successful in this battle?
I think two of the really key factors to me would be, the absolute star power on this Rams D line. I mean, Aaron Donald, probably the best overall player in the NFL, and Von Miller, who is not the same Von Miller that he was, back in 2015 and 2016 with the Denver Broncos, where he single-handedly won them a Super Bowl. But he's still like a very productive player, and not someone that you'd want to match up with. And especially those two against this Bengals offensive line, who, there's definitely some weak links on there, to say the least. It's probably going to be the toughest matchup that they've, faced within these entire playoffs. Considering that, they let up 9 sacks playing the Titans, them playing 2 elite pass rushers is, it's not going to be a easy task for this Bengals offensive line. And another matchup that I'm really interested in seeing is how the secondary kind of accounts for the passing game for the Bengals. Obviously one of the best wide receiver tandems in the NFL. And especially considering, they picked Jamar Chase 5th overall in this past draft. He's their number 1 receiver, probably one of the best rookie seasons of a wide receiver ever in the NFL. So I'm interested in seeing if, they match him up with Jalen Ramsey, if they double cover him, just the ways that this secondary will be able to stifle this Bengals passing game. And those two are going to be really important in whether or not this Bengals offense overcomes all of these obstacles.
I think to find success against this Rams defense, they're going to have to get a bunch of quick passes out. And I don't really think Jamar Chase is going to be the guy that's going to make or break the game. I think it's going to be more T. Higgins, in my opinion, just running slant routes and quick out routes, because that Rams D line is going to be, or that entire Rams defense is going to be much stronger than that Titans defense. Burrow has to get that ball out quick if he's going to find any success. And then this Rams defense, I think it's better than what it was in their last Super Bowl, or many people were calling them the next dynasty of the NFL because of such success they had in the NFL season leading up to the Super Bowl. But the defense is better, so Burrow has to get it out quick. Maybe look for Joe Mixon on some screen passes or wheel routes, but I don't see anything going crazy deep on any of these corners.
Yeah, just to add on to your – oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So just to add a quick point, Leon, I think T. Higgins will definitely be an impact player, but also Tyler Boyd in the slot. He's going to be really important. The short to intermediate level throws for Joe Burrow. He'll have some easy completions. And, Tyler Boyd's also come up clutch for this Bengals team, I think, ever since 2017. I think I'm thinking back to that one catch on 4th and 12 from Andy Dalton that sent the Bills to the playoffs. Thank you, Tyler Boyd, for that. And also some of the just clutch catches that he's made during this 2021 season. He's one of the most underrated receivers in this NFL league, just in general. And I think it'll be a definite X factor for this Bengals offense come Sunday.
I was seeing something on Instagram. I kind of feel bad for AJ Greene because this guy is probably the best wide receiver in Cincinnati Bengals history, and the second he leaves, they get a Super Bowl. I mean, he was unbelievable in his prime. Top 5 receiver, consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, great possession player, could catch the deep ball over other great defensive players, and he's in Arizona this year, so it's tough.
I mean, I'd argue for Ocho Cinco all time. I mean, obviously AJ Greene is up there, but like, I mean, maybe just because Ocho Cinco was more of the prima donna, and I don't know, but like AJ Greene was the better football player, but Ocho Cinco he's like the first Bengals receiver I think of, just because of all the antics, kind of like with the Steelers with Antonio Brown, although legitimately he's the best receiver they've ever had, but both from an actual talent and just from the drama. But yeah, I think when you look at a guy like Isaiah Prince, for example, I don't see how he's going to be able to block Aaron Donald. Yeah, they're going to need to double team him. But can you really do that when you have Von Miller on the other side? When you have a guy like Leonard Floyd and the linebackers that's liable to come after the quarterback at any point, it's really a catch-22 for the Cincinnati Bengals offense there, and I think it's going to take a lot of those short routes. I mean, T. Higgins is really good at that, but Jamar Chase too. Yeah, I remember he broke off like a 55-yard completion off of a screen pass essentially against the Titans. So he is really good at taking those short passes and being able to change field position with his game breaking speed, and that's the type of things they were having to do to really kind of stretch out the Titans defense when they were getting bull rushed every single possession. And one thing too that really helped, because I think at a certain point in that game, the Titans were really beginning to get overly aggressive with the pass rush. Joe Mixon was really starting to get some really nice runs in that game. And even back into the Chiefs game, Joe Mixon had some impactful runs, especially in the fourth quarter and overtime, to help carry the Bengals into victory. And he doubles as a pass catcher in the backfield, and that can take up some of the pressure off of Joe Burrow with the pass rush. I think that's where where the game could be won or lost for Cincinnati, at least on the offensive end. Now, back to Jamar Chase for a second. Him versus Jalen Ramsey to me is a matchup I'm dying to watch. Like that wide receiver 1 versus quarterback run is going to be awesome to watch. I'm very curious to see what Jalen Ramsey has got for this matchup with Jamar Chase.
I don't mean to give away any early predictions, but Aaron Donald, I'm setting it 2.5 sacks or more in this game.
I can see that.
It's bold, but I've been right about bold predictions in the past, so I have to do it.
I got another prediction. Oh,
go ahead. What's your prediction?
I got a quick prediction as well. So, side note, I saw Jalen Ramsey, LA Rams corner, in the latest box office hit number 1 right now, Jackass Forever. He had a cameo where he tackles one of the stars in the film, and if he tackles as hard as he tackled that one random dude in the Super Bowl, I think the Rams got this in the bag. I don't know.
Yeah. So Oscar, he's having internet issues because unfortunately where he's at, it's raining, interrupted his internet connection. But I did want to share that on this particular topic, the Bengals offensive line is their biggest weakness. Can they protect Joe Burrow? Can Joe Burrow keep his cool in the Super Bowl situation? He has pedigree and has won championship before. And I do think that's a major benefit for the Cincinnati Bengals here, is how cool of a guy Joe Burrow is. Like, this dude does not have a pulse. I think about this Pardon My Take interview, and also shout out to my friend Gustavo Tomazelli from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Super Bowl week. They are excited for it. Apparently in Brazil, they're showing it on 2 different channels, apparently. Just a fun fact down in what's going on in South America. But anyway, back to what Oscar said. I mean, there's a Pardon My Take interview that's taken right after the LSU Clemson national title game where Joe Burrow won. And you can tell everyone's all hungover, Big Cat and PFT. But Joe Burrow is just sitting there and talking about how, Yeah, we were down 10, but you know, it is what it is. We just had to go out there and play ball, and we had chosen our rings before the game. And I mean, this dude literally just didn't care. I mean, had to play Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma. None of those teams made him sweat a bit. And I think for all the big games he's had to play, for all the hostile environments, I mean, going to play in front of 100,000 screaming Alabama fans is never easy. The Super Bowl ain't going to be nothing. There's a reason why before he went to Kansas City, he's like, I faced tougher environments in the SEC. And that's why. If Joe Burrow can handle that, Joe Burrow can handle the Super Bowl. He handled the AFC title game. And I don't think that's not the least of my concerns. Now, obviously, if I were a Bengals fan, the more concern is, can I keep this guy upright through this game? And I think that's ultimately where it's going to come down to. And I'm just very curious to see how they use Chase. Can they get him off of Ramsey at any time? Could they force Ramsey maybe to cover a Boyd or Higgins at times? And especially, too, if CJ Uzomah can't go in this game, I think that would be a huge loss for them throughout the game. And really having to rely on a guy like Drew Sample, that's an underrated aspect. Uzomah has been a cover guy. He's gotten some nice receptions throughout the year. And that would be a concern of mine if I were a Bengals fan. So I guess just kind of wrap this part. Who do you think is going to have more success, the Bengals offense or the Rams defense? And I'm trying to think of how I would want to define it.
Rams defense, 100%.
I both go with Rams defense. I'd probably go with the same, but I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals offense had a lot of success in this game, but I do think that offensive line will be a little much. So let's kind of flip over to the other side, the Rams offense versus the Bengals defense. And of course, we have to start with Matthew Stafford. You know, in his 12th season, was in Detroit for 11 years, never won a playoff game. A lot of people were asking, okay, he has the counting stats, but is he actually that good of a quarterback? Well, he's answered the bell this year after getting traded to Los Angeles. He is that good of a quarterback. He has led the Rams with this little roster to the Super Bowl, and really has helped, blow up Cooper Kupp, who I've argued for MVP on this show. He's had one of the greatest receiving seasons of all time. He's he's a slot guy who can play WR1, and that is such a dangerous and rare combination in this league. Additionally, when you look at their running back situation, it's a running back by committee. You have, for most of the year, it was Darrell Henderson Jr., but they got Cam Akers back for the playoffs, and he's been decently well because you still got Sony Michel in the backfield. Their offensive line is very stout, anchored by Andrew Whitworth, who's 40 years old, looking for his first Super Bowl. And not to mention Odell Beckham, playing in his first ever Super Bowl. They bring him in midseason to replace the injured Robert Woods, who is a very important piece of that offense. And he has shined in his return, especially in the postseason, playing some of his best ball since he was in New York, because obviously his Cleveland stint was not very good. So, but on the other side, the Cincinnati Bengals defense, not really a lot of big names. Probably your biggest name here is like a Trey Hendrickson. But this team has been sneaky good throughout the playoffs. Probably their strength, in my opinion, has been their turnovers. They were able to intercept Ryan Tannehill 3 times. They forced 3 turnovers against the Chiefs, forced Patrick Mahomes into 2 interceptions in that game. It's been a key to their success, a key to getting to this point, especially when you look at what they have on the defensive line, when you look at their secondary, and no superstars, but they have been doing their jobs, and they've really, been able to make the plays when necessary to put themselves in this position. So, and I feel like the star power really is on that other side with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, with Von Miller, and all those guys. But this side of me perhaps is just as interesting because it has star power in its own right.
Oh, absolutely. And, from what we've seen in the playoffs, I mean, they picked off Ryan Tannehill 3 times in the divisional round, and they were able to stifle Patrick Mahomes and, show that he's mortal, which we rarely ever see from Mahomes. And they have some great guys on the D line. I mean, obviously Trey Hendrickson, that was an absolutely genius move by the Bengals front office to pick him up in free agency. He's been very productive within this Bengals defense, and also Sam Hubbard's on the other side. Eli Apple is in the secondary as well. Sometimes he can get burned, not gonna lie, but occasionally he can come up with a clutch tackle or two, as we saw in the Kansas City game in the AFC Championship, where I think he tackled Tyreek to end the second quarter. And Trey Flowers is a pretty underrated corner as well. And then talk about the safeties, like probably neck and neck safety tandem with the Buffalo Bills. You're talking about Von Bell and Jesse Bates, some of the best safeties in this league. And I gotta say, they better re-sign Jesse Bates, because if you don't, I don't know what you're doing. But they are going to have a hard time against this Rams offense, one of the best offenses in the league. You got Matt Stafford, who's shown that he's not just Pat Stafford. Cooper Kupp, who's emerged as one of the best wide receivers in the league. OBJ's had a career renaissance. Obviously, that O-line stout, Andrew Whitworth, taking over and being Matt Stafford's blindside blocker. And they have a solid running game as well. Cam Akers coming back from that torn Achilles. He's been playing really well in the playoffs. And Sony Michel has been productive while he's been gone also. I think the two most important aspects of this game, and at least offensively, with both teams, is the wide receiver one and quarterback relationship. Teams haven't really been able to stifle the Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford connection too much. And I can say the same thing about Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this Bengals secondary deals with Cooper Kupp and also deals with OBJ, Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee. It's an absolute star-studded offense that they got in Los Angeles.
I have some crazy predictions for this one also on the game plan. I think Cooper Kupp is going to be double covered a lot by the corners and the safety, so I'd expect Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson to attack that linebacker core of Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, because they do use a 4-2-5 set on defense, that type of scheme. So I'm expecting Odell to have a decent game. Kupp could still have over 100 yards, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy like what he's done in the past. But I do think that the Rob Havenstein matchup versus either Sam Hubbard or Trey Hendrickson on the right side is going to be big, because I think Rob Havenstein's an underrated tackle in the league. He's a great run blocker, great pass blocker. I am going with another bold prediction of the Rams over 150-plus rushing yards total. I think that is where they're going to open up a lot of holes in the defense. Bengals send pressure, they're just going to run right through the middle. I think Sony Michel and Cam Akers are due for big games.
Yeah, because I've seen both the Titans and the Bengals, even the Raiders to an extent, were all able to run the ball effectively. I think all of those teams got into trouble in their games when they, I think, try to rely on the pass, especially the Chiefs. The Chiefs should have ran way more in the second half than they did. And I understand the temptation to put the ball in the hands of Patrick Mahomes, but it backfired on them. Same goes with the Titans. There were times in that game where you had a guy like Deontay Foreman who was running very, very well, but they kind of decided to rely on Tannehill, and that's where the Bengals with their front seven or the front six really, and their secondary were really able to force them into some mistakes, and that really is what I'm worried about when it comes to the Rams. I think about what happened at Tampa with the 4 fumbles. This is a team at times this year that has been very susceptible to a rash of turnovers. And Stafford historically has been susceptible to a rash of turnovers. And this Bengals defense is so opportunistic that it's not inconceivable that they go through 2 or 3 turnovers in this game. I think about the game that the Rams played against the Titans earlier this year, where they turned over the ball, I believe it was 4 times. The Titans only had like 190 yards of offense in that game, but it didn't matter because the Rams couldn't do anything on offense. And that's absolutely what you have to avoid if you're the Los Angeles Rams. If you can take care of the football, establish the run like Leon said, that is your path to success. And I think that will benefit you in the long run in terms of winning this football game. Because the one way Cincinnati's been able to win all season, especially in this postseason, is by being the team that makes the less mistakes, that avoids the turnovers. And to me, that's really what the Rams have to do on offense. Just focus taking care of the football, because the Titans and Chiefs do those things. The Bengals would have been bounced out of this playoffs already.
Like, I think Stafford is going to throw an interception this game. I don't think he's going to either have a crazy game statistically. I don't really see 300 yards out of him. I'd see 200, 250, but I think they're going to try something very different with really trying to force the run game down the Bengals defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree. I really do think the Rams should have a lot of success. I mean, obviously, only having 2 linebackers out there is really difficult in terms of being able to stop the run. But we'll see what they're able to do. I do think that with their 5 secondary look, that does enable you to be able to double team Kupp. But definitely Odell and Van Jefferson should get their looks. Once again, kind of like the Bengals, can they have Tyler Higbee out there? He certainly is a target that has received nice volume from Stafford throughout the year, just because of the attention that a guy like Cooper Kupp receives. But kind of a question here, because I feel like Jamar Chase will probably get similar attention by the Rams that Cooper Kupp will get on his side. Which receiver do you trust more between Kupp and Jamar Chase to be able to overcome double teams consistently throughout the game? Because for me, it's probably Kupp just because of the experience he has versus Jamar Chase. But I think Chase has more explosive ability than Kupp.
Just looking at the stats between Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp, I'm going to count the amount of over 100-yard games that Cooper Kupp's gotten this season, both within the regular season and postseason. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 over 100-yard receiving games for Cooper Kupp. And then versus Jamar Chase, just going to look at this right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games of over 100 receiving yards for Jamar Chase. A couple of those games, however, were over 200-yard receiving games for Jamar Chase. I highly doubt that would happen in this game, considering how good the Rams secondary is. In terms of Jamar Chase, having that high level of production, but I would personally just trust Cooper Kupp. I mean, like, no matter who you pair him up against, like, he'll always just beat you, go deep, and then just run it in for a touchdown. I think it's almost a safe bet that Cooper Kupp will get over at least 90 yards and will catch like a touchdown or 2. I've already bet on that. But Jamar Chase, you also can't discount his connection with Joe Burrow that I talked about earlier, as well as, their time at LSU together, especially in the Natty. He was the wide receiver 1 for that team. And he was, an absolutely explosive offensive player back then, and he still is today. But yeah, I'd probably say Cooper Kupp just because of the experience as well as how historic his season has been.
To be honest, I think they both really get locked up in this game, but I don't really think I don't think Ramsey's gonna need much help over the top against Chase. I don't see Jamar Chase having too many times getting double teamed, but Cooper Kupp could probably break 1 or 2. I just feel this game not being big in the receiving department for either team, to be honest.
I still feel like that both receivers will have their moments just because of the talents. I don't think either guy is going to have a record game or anything, but I think Kupp, because he is going against a slightly worse quarter than Chase's, will probably end up having the better game here. And it just will be emblematic of the season that he is having. But I wouldn't be surprised if both guys had over 100 yards and a touchdown just because of the talents that they are. All right. An often forgotten component of the football game is special teams. But for these Bengals, special teams has been uber important. And you can't start talking about their special teams without talking about Evan McPherson. This dude has been electric and automatic. Money Mac, as they call him. 10 out of 10, I believe, throughout the postseason. Has not missed once. Has hit 2 game-winning field goals throughout the course of these playoffs. Just absolutely insane consistently. And Kevin Huber, the Bengals punter too, has been solidly consistent throughout the playoffs as well. It's really helped that Bengals defense. On the other side, Matt Gay, not as automatic. He had that really bad field goal at Tampa Bay where he hit the 47-yarder short, which was really rare. But otherwise, he's been pretty good throughout the playoffs. And of course, you have Sam Hecker for the Rams here. John Hecker, who is one of the best punters in the entire game. So when you take a look at this comparison here, which special teams do you trust more? Because we've seen it be a factor in games this year, especially the Packers 49ers, where the Packers special teams lost them the game. Are you worried about either team's special teams losing them the game here?
I'd say I'd give the edge to Cincy. I mean, you talk about a kicker with ice in his veins, like that's Evan McPherson to a T. Like coming in as a rookie and just going into a game-winning field goal situation, being like, "Hey guys, I think we're going to the AFC Championship game now." Like that level of confidence for a kicker is definitely important in this league. So like a guy that's able to drill a game-winning kick in to the uprights, when the lights are shining brightest on him, is definitely going to be a really important factor for Cincy. But also talk about Sam Hecker, like for the Rams. He's probably the best punter in the league. They brought in some competition, in the offseason, but he beat a younger guy way, like absolutely easy. So, he'll be able to put the Bengals into some offensive situations that, aren't the best for them. I could see him drilling one into the 1-yard line for sure. I am a little concerned about Matt Gay for the Rams. I mean, like you said, Nick, he missed that 47-yarder short. So, if I were to be in a game-winning kick situation, I'd probably pick McPherson over Gay at this point. So I'm going to give the edge to Cincy here.
Really, even if they're at home, the Rams, so that's why I'd probably give them the edge. But I think, to be honest, I think both special teams will play fine. I don't think this game will really be defined as special teams as it much will be defined by defense, in my opinion. I see both kickers being 100% this game for sure.
Yeah, I think something that real quick. Something that like really benefits both of these teams is that there's not necessarily like any glaring special teams issues. I mean, we've seen in Green Bay, that whole special teams unit was just a mess. Boho wasn't, holding his, kicks right for Mason Crosby. There would be a couple of times where he'd shank punts, and then just their whole coverage was terrible. I mean, watching that Bears game in Lambeau on Sunday Night Football, as well as the playoff game earlier, neither team has any of those problems. And both have pretty good kickers, and they don't have any punters that really mess up all that often. So I don't think they'll be too much of a factor.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with both of y'all. At the end of the day, I don't see the special teams being the ultimate deciding factor. I think they'll both play fine. McPherson will make his field goals. I think Gay won't have another miscue like that being at home. Certainly that helps. And I think ultimately that might help out the punting game more, just because you know exactly what you have to do within that dome stadium to get the coffin corner kicks exactly where you need them. And both teams, for the return game, have been pretty solid. So that's the reason why they've made it here, is because they've been able to be disciplined on the special teams throughout the season. All right, so it's time for some predictions. Let's kind of go over some bad lines here real quick. So the actual game line here is At least according to DraftKings, the Rams are -4. The over-under is 48.5. And of course, with the Super Bowl, there's all kinds of crazy bets you can put on. Like, for example, one is the jersey number of the first overall touchdown scores. Be under 23.5 or over 23.5. You can bet on how long do you think the national anthem is going to be, and just all kinds of stuff. You will at field goal hit the uprights. But just in term, but what is your prediction for this game? What would you bet in this game? Most important prediction we'll make all year.
Can you just say? I'm sorry. Could you say what the Rams are favored by again?
-4 on 4 points.
Yeah, Connor, go ahead.
I'll say the Rams win by a touchdown, 31-24.
Okay, this is a crazy prediction, and I've been thinking about this for over a week. I called the Bill Saints. I almost called a shutout, but I'm going to go Rams 31, the Bengals 3. That defense is going to make a big improvement against what they're going to build on that performance that they had against the Patriots. They did a great job against Tom Brady, even though they lost. I think they're better now. I think Aaron Donald makes life miserable for the offensive line. The running game for the Rams is going to be great. Even another prediction, Joe Burrow, 3 interceptions.
Man, if that happens too.
He's going to have to force it down to Chase, because if Donald gets to you close and you have to get it out, you might get some balls tipped in the air. Some crazy stuff might happen. And most importantly, the Rams are at home. The Super Bowl will be with the home team for the second straight year. So I'm going to believe in the Rams 31-3. It's a very bold prediction, but I believe it.
It's definitely impossible. I hope you're wrong, because I don't want to see a second straight Super Bowl blowout. And really, honestly, we haven't had a truly great Super Bowl game in a couple of years. I mean, Niners Chiefs was all right. Eagles Patriots was all right. Really, Falcons Patriots was the last one. That was just insane, down to the wire. And that was just because the Falcons choked. For me in this game, I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. Like, I think it won't be an abject blowout. I think the Bengals are going to do some good things on offense in this game. But you're right. I think the Rams' defensive line is going to be too much. I think Matthew Stafford's going to take care of the football. He's going to play within the offense. And I think the Rams' rushing game is going to take over. Give me the Rams 27, Bengals 16. I'm hoping it's closer than that. But, I think the Bengals have severely overachieved to get to this point. I think they've benefited off of a lot of misfortunes, frankly, from the Titans and the Chiefs especially, to get into this point. Doesn't mean they don't deserve to be here. But I do think the Rams are just going to be our superior team, and they have the experience. And I think Joe Burrow and the rest of that team is going to take a lot of learning lessons, I feel like, from this. And certainly one thing I hope we don't see is, if he does go out there and throw for interceptions, is that we don't all of a sudden start trashing Joe Burrow. I think a lot of people are forgetting that he's just in his second year. You're not supposed to be in the Super Bowl in year 2. No other number 1 pick ever has been in this position. And I think, especially for someone like him, he'll take this and be able to build from it. And I don't think it's impossible to win at all. I mean, this year's been so crazy that it wouldn't surprise me at all if Cincinnati won. But having to choose here, I choose the Rams. So we're all in agreement on the Rams. Go ahead.
Sorry about that, Nick. But the trend that we've seen in the last 10 years, Russell Wilson in his second year won the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, well, it was his third year, but in his second year as a starter, won the Super Bowl. We could see the trend of Burrow winning, and with the NFL being so crazy that the Bengals do pull off the unpredictable win, but it just seems very unlikely this year.
Yeah. And hey, if you're a Bengals fan, you better be glad, because I've picked against them, I think, every single game throughout this entire postseason. So, hey, I might as well stick to my guns here and pick the Rams. May the Cincinnati Bengals make a fool out of me. So, it's time to begin wrapping this thing up. Are there any last comments anyone has? I don't know. Did either one of you, any last comments on Super Bowl? Anything else? I mean, I did briefly want to just kind of like talk about the Pro Bowl because I didn't really watch it because it was a joke. Like I saw a couple of plays, and it's just a glorified flag football, and frankly, it just needs to die. Like I don't see any real reason for it to still exist.
There were like a couple cool moments within that game. I watched most of it, but you know, it was hard to sit through for sure. I'd say one moment, Micah Parsons sacking Patrick Mahomes, like an actual tackle instead of just, you know, some touch football stuff. That was somewhat. It was interesting to see. Didn't expect it. And then probably my favorite moment of that whole game, the AFC put Stephon Diggs in that corner, and he was covering his brother Trayvon Diggs at wide receiver, and he locked him down pretty easily. I think Diggs or Stephon got away with holding, but you know, it is what it is. It was pretty entertaining to watch that, but you know, it's kind of sad to see what the Pro Bowl has become, because I think like even like 10 or 15 years ago, like it was still a point of pride for, you know, either conference to win. You know, that it was a real game. There was, you know, hard hits going on. And it would be interesting to see if the league sees this and says, hey, even though this did get a lot of ratings, and I understand that, you know, a lot of the players don't want to risk injury, especially with a meaningless game. If they could bring some incentives in to, you know, kind of sweeten the deal and not only make this a real game, but bring in talent like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, you know, guys that opted out of going to this game. You know, it'd be cool to, you know, maybe bring some money incentives in for the players, or I don't know, just something to help make this a real game instead of just some glorified flag football with pads on.
I think they've done that before. I remember, I think they offered a $50,000 incentive, but I didn't really watch much of the Pro Bowl based on the text messages you guys were sending me. But I remember when the Pro Bowl used to be something great. I remember Brandon Marshall on the Dolphins had like 4 touchdowns in one game. I remember some great moments, and I don't really think those fans got their money's worth, to be honest.
Honestly, I was mostly watching NASCAR racing at the LA Coliseum just because of how insane that premise was. But yeah, I really don't know how you fix the Pro Bowl. If you really can, I mean, just All-Star games in general, like the NBA All-Star game. I mean, that to me isn't that good. You know, it's just, I mean, the only game that has had any incentive historically really is the MLB, just because of who gets to host the World Series. But that's not even fair, in my opinion, because you should be rewarding the teams, not some random All-Star game. But I don't know. We'll see what they do in the future with it. But that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for watching our Super Bowl preview. On the next episode, we're going to recap who won in Hollywood. We'll kind of have a retrospective about that team, about the game, and just about the season, because it's been a long season, the first 18-week regular season. And I think we're going to have a lot of thoughts on, a lot of interesting conversations on just how this season went and how we move forward to the 2022-23 season, where hopefully our teams have some better luck later in the season. We're talking about the Titans or the Bills or the New York Giants in February. But for Leon Taryan, Conor Kennedy, and for Oscar Orengo, my name is Nicholas Hill. Thank you so much for watching the Interview Podcast. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you have great plans. I hope you have great food and great drinks and really enjoy the festivities. And I hope we get a fantastic football game. Good luck to the Rams. Good luck to the Bengals, your players, the fans, and those organizations. And hopefully your team comes out on top. Take care, everyone.